What's the worst way classmates try to cut you out of your own work? 12 years ago, while I was working through my aeronautical engineering degree, I got stuck taking one of those extra classes the school added to round us out. In this case, it was business. Most of us had zero interest in it, but our professor at least acknowledged that his class wasn't exactly the highlight of our week. Then he dropped a final group project worth 50% of our grade that changed the mood instantly. There were about 30 people in the class, and I was placed in a group with 3 others I already knew from previous courses. 2 of them, Ethan and Kyle, remembered me from calculus. They had barely scraped by while I passed comfortably, so they immediately assumed I would carry the load again. They didn't bother hiding it. They just acted like the work had already been assigned to me. Our 4th member, Lena, actually tried. She and I met regularly, dug through the confusing business terms, and slowly shaped something coherent. She wasn't naturally confident in the subject, but she worked hard and kept asking questions until things made sense. Unfortunately, she was also someone who could be talked into things if pushed the right way, and Ethan and Kyle noticed. As the weeks passed, they started telling her that they should be the ones presenting, that I wasn't contributing much, and that she didn't need to stress because they would handle everything. The night before the presentation, I came down with bronchitis so bad the clinic kept me isolated. I emailed the professor to explain, hoping it wouldn't affect me too badly. Meanwhile, Ethan and Kyle seized the moment. They took the project, stood in front of the class, and announced they had done all the work. According to them, I had skipped class because they had warned me they were reporting me for not helping. They even implied Lena wasn't involved. They took full credit, smiling like the grade was already theirs. My grade in the portal appeared as a straight F. At first I was furious, but I realized something important. The final written report, the largest piece of the assignment, existed in exactly one place: my hands. Neither Ethan nor Kyle had ever asked to see it, and Lena had only reviewed the draft on my laptop. I had the complete document, the notes, the research, everything. So I went to the professor privately. I showed him the report, the timeline, our working notes, and the messages. He read through everything, nodded slowly, and told me he had suspected something was off. He said he planned to address it at the end of the semester, but was more than willing to follow through now that he had evidence. He also suggested something that made me smile. We wouldn't mention the report to anyone. For the next month, Ethan and Kyle circled me like hungry birds. First, they demanded the report. I told them I hadn't done any work, repeating their own story back to them with the sweetest tone I could manage. Then they switched to acting friendly, telling me it had all been a misunderstanding and offering me partial credit if I helped them turn it in late. I didn't bother speaking to them most of the time. If I did, it was only to say that failing would be better than helping them pass. Their attempts became more desperate. They knocked on my dorm door at random hours. They tried to pressure my roommate into searching the room. They grabbed my backpack one afternoon and flipped through it looking for the pages. They even cornered Lena, trying to convince her to talk me into giving them the report. She refused and spent the next week worried she would fail because of them. Then came the last week of classes, the moment the professor had been waiting for. He began handing back the written reports to each group. When he reached Ethan and Kyle, he paused with a single sheet of paper in his hand. They immediately perked up, thinking it was the full document. Instead, he placed that single sheet, an academic misconduct notice, on their desk. Then he walked past them, stopping at Lena's desk. He set down our full report. I had to deduct some points for the situation surrounding your group, he told her calmly, but you and your partner still did solid work. Lena stared at me in shock before breaking into the biggest smile I had seen from her all semester. We received an 82, far from perfect, but considering everything, it felt like a win. For Ethan and Kyle, the grade was a 0, but their problems didn't stop there. I had been documenting everything those two had done, every attempt at pressure, every late night knock, every incident with witnesses nearby. I brought all of that to the administration. The professor submitted his own report as well. That opened the door to a much larger investigation. Turns out Ethan and Kyle had pulled similar stunts in other classes, and several students finally felt comfortable speaking up. By the end of the week, both of them were gone expelled. And suddenly, group projects didn't seem so bad anymore.